Welcome back. A live look now at the Manhattan courthouse, where in the next hour we expect to see the man accused of killing the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. Luigi Mangione set to appear in court for the first time since December. That is when he pleaded not guilty to state murder charges. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson is joining us now. Jessica, thanks for being here on a Friday. We know this case captivated the country. It will be hard to find someone who has not heard something or another about this. So how much of a distraction could this be, especially when it comes to picking jurors?
This is a really important question, because the issue for jury, if we do get to the point where we're picking a jury, and we should just pause and say the majority of cases, both civil and criminal, don't end up going to a jury trial. But if we get there, how do you pick a fair jury? And the answer is, we're not looking for people who have never heard about the case. And frankly, I don't think we're even looking for people who don't have a view of the case. What we're looking for is people who can walk into that jury box and then later into the deliberation room and say, here's the applicable law, here are the facts that were presented to me, and I'm going to make a decision only based on that. So certainly when there's a high profile case, jury selection, called voir dire, it tends to be more intensive, but it doesn't mean that we can't get a fair jury just because this is such a high profile case.
Okay, got it. I want to ask you now about the mayor of New York City, because we just learned a New York judge declined to immediately dismiss the case, the corruption case against Eric Adams. So that means the case survives, at least for now. What does this mean for the mayor's future?
Well, we don't know exactly what it means yet. So we're talking about a decision by federal judge Dale Ho. And he basically said, I'd like more information from one of the people who is, frankly, one of the most prominent lawyers in the country, a solicitor general under the George W. Bush administration. And he said, here's a list of questions. Please submit something called an amicus or friend of the court brief and answer those questions for me. And some of them include, whether or not the judge really has the power to say, I won't dismiss the case when both sides agree that they want the case to be dismissed, whether or not it should be dismissed with prejudice or not, all a long way of saying his future, at least legally, hangs in the balance right now.
Okay, another question here for you, Jessica, about a completely different topic as well, because we're following lawsuits seeking to block the Trump administration from freezing trillions of dollars in federal funds. What can you tell us about that one?
So this is a case where there's a federal judge in Rhode Island who issued something called a temporary restraining order. And essentially what those challenging the Trump administration's executive actions are saying is that the Trump administration isn't following that order and that they need now something called a permanent injunction. So the arguments here are very similar, which is basically that the Trump administration doesn't have the power to implement this order, that it's something they need to do with Congress's help, and that they didn't go about it the right way. And basically what those challengers, these Democratic states, are arguing is that the temporary restraining order wasn't really abided by, didn't do enough, and now they need something called a permanent injunction.
Okay, CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson, as always, thank you for the context and insight in all these topics. Appreciate your time today.